What's going on YouTube? It's Teach back again with another video, and today we're talking about the Los Angeles Rams in our season preview series, and hopefully you will enjoy today's video. If you do, be sure to hit that like button. It really would help me out a ton. If you're new around here, want to see the rest of the series and more football content in general, just hit that big red subscribe button. Tell me what you think about the reigning Super Bowl champs down below in the comments section. Do you think the Rams can repeat, be the first time in a long time to be able to do that? How many wins do you think they come away with? Who are some X factors and some games you're looking forward to watching the Rams play this year? I'd love to have your thoughts, and I respond to just about every comment. So let's talk about LA down below. So if you're new to the series, welcome to it. Be sure to go back out and check out our previous videos. We're making our way. We're now in the back third, I think, of our 32-team, series here. So been an exciting journey so far. We're getting closer and closer to the end, which means we're getting closer and closer to the regular season. So wasting no more time. Win range 11 to 13 wins. This is what I had for the Chiefs, what I had for the Chargers. I think the Rams are in a very similar, position. Definitely playoff competitive and Super Bowl contenders. Just coming from the NFC side, I have them at 13-4. Could fluctuate. There's a couple games in my early NFC West record prediction videos where it's 50-50 games. So like I said, 11-6, 12-5, 13-4, all kind of feel plausible here for the Rams. Now we'll go position group by position group, kind of give you where I stand on the roster as a whole. Matt Stafford, obviously, he's had a little bit of an injuries here in training camp, but assuming he's going to play the majority of the season. Won a Super Bowl last year. Always kind of been that guy who's, and if you saw my QB rankings video, this kind of encapsulates exactly what I see Matt Stafford as, is, pretty good with sprinkles of great. And the Rams got that sprinkles of great on their postseason run last year, with the exception that Jaquiski Tart should have been interception. So he's one of those guys. And, he's a top, 10 quarterback because of that. And, simply put, if he gets another great run in him once they get to the playoffs, the Rams could certainly go back-to-back. Running back position pretty solid. I'm hoping Cam Akers, with a full offseason, is truly healthy, really rushed back from the injury, wasn't really as efficient as he once was, and maybe was what people expected. Darrell Henderson's still in the building. He's a solid player as well. So, it's going to be a committee, and they got a solid stable of, options there in the backfield. The offensive line, a little bit of a hit going from Andrew Whitworth to Joseph Noteboom, but when we saw Noteboom last year, it looked really good, so that's really promising. He also got the 3-year extension, so that's a good sign. Got him locked up for years to come. Logan Bruss figures to be the starting right guard right now. On the Rams depth chart, he's not, but I have a hard time thinking their first selection of the draft is not going to be starting, and that's just kind of the Rams' way of doing it. They move on these picks, they go get superstar players, stars and scrubs kind of approach, and because of that, you're going to have rookie fourth rounders starting on the offensive line, and the scheme kind of makes it to where it's not as big of a liability, but Logan Bruss certainly an interesting part, but all in all, that offensive line's been pretty solid. All but 1 year, I think that was 2019, where the Rams went 9-7. That was the worst year in the Sean McVay era, and that was the 1 year where the offensive line was a little iffy. So assuming the offensive line's, at least a league average, maybe even a step above that, I think this team's going to be really, really good. In the wide receivers, you lose Robert Woods, but Allen Robinson might be better. And you look at the $16.25 million cap hit for Woods versus $15 million a year per pop for Allen Robinson. Might have gotten better and slightly cheaper. So that's alluring. So Van Jefferson still have Tutu Atwell going into year 2. Interesting to see how they use those two guys. And OBJ is still kind of lingering and as a potential option. He's a free agent right now. Sean McVay saying, once we get OBJ back, so maybe it kind of points towards him returning with the Rams and trying to help this team go back-to-back. Nothing locked into place there just yet, but of course the man that leads the way is Cooper Kupp. Unbelievable season last year and figures to put up some gaudy numbers. So one of the first picks in every fantasy draft this upcoming year. Because of that, he's going to get a ton of targets, a lot of the yards, and he's going to find the end zone plenty this upcoming year. One of the best wide receivers in football. So yeah, need I say more? And then you can switch over to the defense. I mean, this is really where it becomes stars and scrubs, where it's Aaron Donald, the headline talent on the defensive line. You also have Leonard Floyd's a good player. Greg Gaines had some good moments there as a pass rushing nose tackle. Then you get Bobby Wagner. So you lose Von Miller, but then that money kind of just goes to giving, $10 million a year to Bobby Wagner. Not a position group they've really had somebody special at. Bobby Wagner, wrong side of 30, probably a little bit on the decline, but it's still Bobby Wagner, still one of the best inside linebackers in football. So for the Rams to have that type of talent at a position they haven't really had yet, I'm really fascinated to see how Raheem Morris, the DC, uses him. Then you get into the secondary, and, it's Jalen Ramsey is the most talented corner in football, point blank and simple. Can do it all. Unbelievable athlete. Can go get you the line of scrimmage. He can play off coverage, man zone, you name it. He can do it. He's also a force to be reckoned with as a tackler. Big hitter, wants to make you feel Jalen Ramsey on the field. So just a stud. A little bit of a question on who's that number 2 cornerback, and the safeties are looking a little different. We'll talk about Nick Scott later on, but Jordan Fuller, Taylor Rapp, how are those guys going to be used? They both kind of feel like box safeties. Just one convert to play linebacker next to Bobby Wagner. Interesting there, but when you have maybe the best defensive player in football and Aaron Donald at one level, one of the best inside linebackers of the last decade and Bobby Wagner at the second level, and then the most talented corner in football at the third level as your quarterback one. Yeah, I got a feeling that defense can be pretty good. So obviously, that leads us into the realistic goal of making the playoffs. Duh. That should be kind of where the conversation starts. I have them winning the NFC West, if you're curious. And then reach goal, of course. Like, there's 2 to 3 handfuls of teams that I wouldn't be surprised if they won the Super Bowl. The Rams did it last year. Yeah, they lost, Von Miller and Andrew Whitworth retired, and natural, attrition on some of the older players, and, wear and tear, and maybe natural decline for some of those older players as well. But that being said, this team should be right back in the playoff and Super Bowl conversation, right? So, of course, their reach goal should be to repeat as Super Bowl champs. X Factors, these are not superstars. Don't come at me saying that Cooper Kupp should be an X Factor, because he should be great. And Jalen Ramsey should be awesome. Aaron Donald should be amazing. These are guys who I think, if they have a career year, exceed expectations, that makes the Rams that much more potent and legitimate as a Super Bowl contender. And if they fall short, it kind of opens up some holes and some glaring needs for this roster. So hopefully that illustrates what I'm going for here. So Terrell Lewis, potentially that other edge rusher starting on the other side, opposite of Leonard Floyd. So that's going to be a huge area of potential value, because you lose a Von Miller, and even just giving up a second and a third, that shows how big of a need that the Rams saw that position as through the middle part of the season. It could also be Justin Hollins, who's that other edge rusher. Right now, the Rams' first official depth chart, it's Justin Hollins or Terrell Lewis. So open competition there. And I'm hoping in year 3, he takes that step forward and kind of becomes that guy I saw him as a third-round pick and become a solid starter opposite of Leonard Floyd. I think at David Long Jr., this is that number 2 corner spot. You lose Darius Williams, so, undersized, but really fit perfectly for what originally Brandon Staley and then Raheem Morris kind of continued on with. That too high, a lot of cover 4, play your lane. Darius Williams was great in that. Can they get the same thing from David Long Jr.? Not a whole lot of playing time under his belt, so definitely a huge role for him to step in. You also have Robert Rochelle, who was the day 2 pick last year, super speedy, had the man coverage ability, coming from a small school though, so that transition may not fully be there as he heads into year 2. And then Nick Scott. I look at Fuller and Taylor Rapp, and I like both those guys, especially Taylor Rapp. I loved him coming out of Washington, but they're, looking at Pro Football Focus grades and just their production in general, really do suggest those guys are best used inside the box as strong safeties, rotating them down in front of the line of scrimmage and letting that be their playground to play in. And then that kind of leaves Nick Scott, who is right now on the Rams depth chart, listed as the starting free safety. Former 7th round pick, been in the league for a handful of years now. Big spot to step into, without a doubt. This is like not one you normally see 7th rounders eventually kind of growing into, especially for a team that just won a Super Bowl. So huge role for Nick Scott to fill. And, again, that cover 4 defense, changes it up a little bit. Not that that's the only thing they run, but as a safety, you're playing your lane, and you also have a safety right next to you doing the same thing, and you're cutting the field into quarters. That's why they call it that. So maybe not as big of a role compared to like maybe a Buffalo and a lot of two safeties splitting the field, like Poyer and Hyde do a ton of. So maybe not exactly as difficult there, but I am fascinated to see what Nick Scott develops into in this role. And of course, this used to be kind of the John Johnson the third role, and now second year with him not being in LA. So can Nick Scott take that step forward? And if he does, and you get David Long to be just solid, competent, good enough to leave on the field, with superstar corner and Jalen Ramsey and Bobby Wagner, Aaron Donald, all those pieces already talked about, this defense can be right back where they were the last 2 years, top of the league, and just about any defensive metric you want to look at. So a couple pieces need to fall in the right spot, but I think if these X factors break the right way and they're all on the defensive side, which I think kind of suggests where I think this Rams team, if they are going to take a step back, I'm not really worried about Sean McVay and his offense. I'm worried about potential holes that may shine through on the defensive side at edge, number 2 corner, and at deep safety. So Lewis, Long Jr., Scott, or whoever may hold those positions certainly have a big role ahead of them this upcoming year. Games to watch, comment thread here, some really good opponents. So starting with, the opening game of the NFL season, the NFL, reigning Super Bowl champs are at home taking on maybe the best team in football. Do you need to hear any more to want to watch this game? Thursday Night Football, but it's going to be the NBC crew calling it, if my memory serves. So Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, game 1, awesome. That's fantastic. And like I said, reigning Super Bowl champs against perhaps the best team and perhaps the best roster in football. So that's what gets the NFL season underway. We're in for a good year. And then fast forward quite a bit to week 11 at New Orleans. So one, this is a road game, so that's just a layer of intrigue there. And then that Saints defense, if it stays healthy, one of the best units in football. And of course, aided by now head coach, but before that, defensive coordinator Dennis Allen being an awesome DC and an awesome defensive mind, and deserving of the head coaching opportunity he now has. It was about time he got another crack at that. So him working with that defense has been fantastic over the last couple of years. And again, assuming no injuries, you're looking at a solid defensive line, anchored by Cam Hayward, Marcus Davenport, David Onyemata. Linebackers, Demario Davis seems to only get better with every year he plays. Pete Warner's been getting a lot of buzz in training camp. Year 2, Paulson Adebo, opposite of Marshawn Lattimore. That feels like a nice duo. Tyrann Mathieu, Marcus May, and then Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is that nickel / strong safety, box safety type of hybrid. There's a lot of talent to go around that defense. So how does the Rams' high-powered, explosive offense match up against that? Do the Saints come away with some big stops and they keep this into a defensive grind? This feels like one of those games where I use this a lot for my broadcast and whatnot. Two very different styles of strength for those two teams. And if that becomes an offensive shootout, I like kind of where the Saints' offense is at right now if everybody stays healthy too. But if this becomes the shootout, you feel better about the Rams being able to play their brand and their game. If this becomes a defensive, stalwart, 19-17 type of final score, I feel pretty good about the Saints being able to come on top. Not to say I don't like that Rams defense, because you just heard me wax poetic about what that potential unit could be, especially with an Aaron Donald, Bobby Wagner, and a Jalen Ramsey. So it really could go either way. It's a 50-50 game. Being on the road, that definitely gives an edge to the Saints there. But, man, that's going to be a fun one to watch. And then week 15 at Green Bay, Monday Night Football. Late in the year, these primetime games in general, fuel the rhetoric for weeks to come. But especially week 15, we're looking to find teams that are hot going into the postseason. So if the Rams kind of lay an egg or the Packers come out flat, that's going to be a big negative as we get closer and closer to the postseason. People will start to fade those two. And then on the other side, if that does play out and the Rams smoke the Packers or the other way around, they're going to become some trendy picks for deep Super Bowl content or deep playoff run contenders and Super Bowl candidates as well. So on the other side, it could be a really close game and just an awesome game to watch on Monday night. So what more do I need to sell you on there? So battle between two of the best teams in football. And this is also when you get to the X's and O, who does Jalen Ramsey match up? Who's the number one wide receiver for Green Bay at that point in the season? Only time can tell that story, but that's going to be really fun to watch. And, this is the best Packers defense maybe in the Aaron Rodgers era against a really good offense. So similar to what we're talking about the Saints offense versus defense. How does this game, what type of pace does it end with? Is this a slow-moving defensive grind-out kind of game, or is this points put on the board left and right? Again, kind of similar to what I talked about with the Saints game. But that's going to be for my games to watch, and that's going to do it for my LA Rams season preview video. Tell me what you think about this team down below in the comment section. How many wins do you think they come away with? Who are some X factors, not superstars, please, but X factors, and some games you're looking forward to watching this team play this upcoming season? Hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. If you did, be sure to hit that like button. It helped me out a ton. And if you're new around here, be sure to hit that big red subscribe button for more football content in your life. That's going to do it for me. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. And until next time, my name is Tej, and I'm signing off.